and I love it. We are the better option. This is the infamous Drakos Vedius cast, rarely seen unless you've been around since 2016, but here we are to deliver you the most compelling broadcast you've ever heard since we finished last week.
It's been a while, Drakos. It has been a while.
Jat was between us last time. Not this plastic wall. Although if we want to name the plastic wall Jat, that's fine for me.
Yeah, we can do that. He's a coach now. That's totally fine. Anyway, we're going to be jumping into Schalke already into some great madness. We are going to be casting Schalke vs. EXO. We already got a lot of great insight from the analyst desk. And what's interesting about both these teams is that they're kind of both on the up and up, Drakos.
True.
We're playing on a brand new patch where there have been some pretty significant changes, as the analyst desk has already highlighted. So I'm curious as to what we're going to see, what the priorities are going to be, and will these teams continue to rack up those wins?
It is obviously a big question. At this point in the season, XL, a dark horse for top 6, a dark horse for playoffs, no doubt. Whereas Schalke, yes, the dream is technically alive, but at this point it feels more like they're fighting from the Dream Crush bracket. So for Excel, they're just hoping Schalke have an off day, because they would sure love to get an easy win in this one and hold out hope for some of the opponents above them or directly fighting with them for a spot in playoffs. Schalke, on the other hand, winning is just a pure loss here for the side of Excel in the old playoffs race. For now, though, into bans, the Orianna, standard and expected. Nothing new on 10-15 yet, as well as the Thresh and the Volibear to follow. Volibear, of course, surprisingly untouched on this patch.
Oh, yeah. There was some very small Thresh nerfs, but honestly, doesn't mean a huge amount. There we're seeing the Caitlyn ban already being taken off the board. For those that don't know, Caitlyn did receive a couple of changes on this patch, but with some shifts in itemization and with many changes to other AD carries, she's very quickly risen to prominence in solo queue, and that's kind of shifted over into pro play as well.
And of course, anytime you buff any champion that's known for early game dominance, all it takes is a little tweak of the number for them to go back to being S tier and incredibly powerful. But this is the one that surprises me. It looks like we're taking some pages out of NA's notebook right now, as the Sona has been banned away as well.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot in the ERL leagues with Sona just being heavily prioritized. Not going to be seeing that one today, but it does mean that the Senna is available. And with my conversations from pros after the Aphelios has been nerfed, Senna, we've already been seeing a lot of her, but Senna and Caitlyn have kind of risen in priority. They're much higher in the grab list when it comes to draft, but of course Ezreal is still alongside her. So still seeing a sort of small AD carry champion pool. What is interesting is no Kalista down Drakos. Something that was consistently banned away has now kind of fallen to the wayside in favor of these two still very prominent AD carry.
Very interesting, surprising to me, but I do like seeing Patrik on something with some solid scaling. Vedius, this is your dream. Last backstage, you wouldn't stop talking about it, and now the audience gets to hear it too. Sejuani together with Camille. Run us through it.
So, the thing about Camille is, I actually was speaking to Odoamne about this, who told me a lot about Grasp of the Undying Camille and how we've been seeing a lot more about, you can even blind pick it, but it's even more prominent when paired with the Sejuani because of how easily you can complement the Camille. Sejuani, with her passive autos, can very easily get stacked up with the Camille, and they work very nicely together. The ultimates also synergize. Everything about them leads you to being able to play through top lane. And remember, we had a great interview from Odoamne last week where he was talking about how in the current meta he feels like he doesn't have as much agency. Well, lo and behold, Odoamne in the top lane, he now has his agency. So we're going to be seeing some carry performances from him today.
And got to see how the Gilius Odoamne duo works out, because obviously that's the big synergy point that we are looking for. On the opposite side, Excel have responded with a champion that later in the game Camille is most certainly going to struggle with. It is the Jax in the hands of Kryze. Not something I'm as used to seeing on him. Normally it's more of the late game team fighters as opposed to the late game split pushers. He has tried the Camille himself. So Kryze, it's a bit of a question mark for me in this one. How does he stack up against Odoamne overall? Because this is very much a matchup where if you fall behind early on, you're gonna have a bad time.
For sure. Of course, we are on patch 10.50. I believe the Jax buffs come next patch.
Yeah, nothing on Jax this one.
Nothing on him, but he's still, as you rightly said, it's a pretty big skill matchup in the top lane. I've been talking to some pros about it, and they say that it can go either way. Typically, Jax offers a little bit more later into the game in a side lane situation, but a lot of it is context dependent. So as we see the rest of the draft, that's going to heavily influence how both these champions are going to be looking to play.
And we see already that Excel have opted to set special up for a favorable matchup in the mid lane by banning away two champions that are quite comfortable into the Galio and the Corki and the Cassio. 4 mid lane bans now for the side of Excel. We'll see what Schalke want to do with the remaining mid lane picks available, as Excel, it appears, have locked in the Sett for themselves. Technically still a flex, but we have to most likely assume that it will be going to the hands of Caedrel. Caedrel.
All right, so XL going for the boy band comp. I like it. A lot of beefy boys on the front line with kind of Patrik as your star headliner act. As you can see, a lot of this is very much about utilizing this huge front line to offer protection for the Ezreal to dish out the damage behind it. And it's a very conventional comp that we see a lot. It's slightly different in the way in which it's executed, but now the big question is, how does XL round out the composition? They can kind of double down, they can get themselves something like the Nautilus, but something like a Yuumi wouldn't be too bad either. They've already got a lot of their front line, they have pretty solid engaged tools. Perhaps they just want to provide more peel and better setup for the Ezreal later on into the game if they want to head in that kind of enchanter support direction.
And of course, after some pretty intense buffs on previous patches, Yuumi was, or nerfs on the previous patches, Yuumi was buffed. This patch, she does restore percentage mana as well as her E now costing percentage mana. So while you can't always be attached to your AD carry, it is much easier to provide sustained heals. But the last pick for Schalke is now going to be the Zoe. Playmaker for Abbedagge, but EU Zoe has an abysmal win rate at the moment. We'll have to see if he can turn that one around.
Well, yeah, Schalke's composition is very interesting because kind of off the bat, it seems to want to do quite a few different things. You got a bit of poke in there, you've got some decent scaling, you can kind of play along on a side lane, but I think that when you look at their core of the 4-1, I think it's pretty solid. You've got two frontliners in the form of the Sejuani and the Tahm Kench. You have that poke and long range that you'll get from a Senna and a Zoe later on into the game, while Odoamne is going to be threatening off in the side lane. And for XL, it's sort of a similar matter, where they do have Caedrel and Special to act as that front line. We talked about the Yuumi will be coming out for Tori in the bot lane, and that's just going to further enable Patrik. So I think that both compositions are fairly similar, but the execution and the way in which they want to play this out is slightly different. But we'll talk more about that as we get into game.
Absolutely will. Of course, always excited to see Patrik set up to carry when he has a Yuumi in his back pocket. And as we get later and later, it's going to have to be eyes on that Jax for Kryze. Can it scale up? Can it take over the game? And what can Schalke do in the mid game to really get their composition rolling with picks like the Zoe, with picks like the Sejuani Camille combo? A lot of stakes for both teams. Schalke, of course, sitting currently at 3-10, but they can still upset XL here, who are trying desperately to tie up and pass the teams above them to secure that spot in the playoffs. It is patch 10-15, and it will be our first game of the day here in week 7 of the LEC. Schalke No Fear versus XL Esports. In just a moment,
we're going to be jumping into game.
Woo! And here we are on the Rift, set up for another thrilling game of League of Legends on a brand new patch.
Dude, the one thing I will say, right, like, okay, everyone kind of knows that Europe has not been the strongest league this split, but
probably because you keep telling them that, yes.
But it's also been super entertaining, right? Like, I love watching European League right now because I feel like you just don't know what's going to happen. So that to me is very enjoyable. And we are seeing some shifts in the meta, which I think is super interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about these compositions and like who are some of the players that we are going to be looking at. And of course, as we mentioned, Drakos, the top lane is going to be a big talking point as we get into the game, because Odoamne going to be playing on a champion where he can have a lot more agency, especially during the laning phase. We expect Gilius to be playing heavily towards the top side of the map. You don't really want to pull a lot of your resources into a Senna Tahm Kench lane. They're pretty self-sufficient. They're pretty healthy on their own. But for XL, I think that because they have so much roaming power with things like the Galio, you can even send the Yuumi off to pair up with things like the Galio or the Caedrel, the Sett if you want, which means that I think this is actually going to be a very top-centered early game to try and get one of your two top laners ahead, because as you said, that's going to very heavily influence how the mid-game plays out and who's going to have that agency.
And for now, Kryze, of course, is bullying out with Counter-Strike. It's a very long cooldown early on, but can just kind of zone Odoamne away for the wave. His Dreams is getting a little frisky here. Yuumi not the strongest champion in the early game, whereas the Senna more than powerful enough to cause a nightmare here for Patrik. A very positive trade, and I like this because already XL know that Schalke want to play around the top side. So if bot side can get an advantage and draw jungle attention down there, that's going to be massive for Odoamne and Gilius.
I think it's also great for Neon and Dreams, because if you get that early push, the wave is then going to bounce back towards you. And we can see that the Sejuani is starting off on the bot side of the map and is going to then look to path up towards top, which means that the wave will be in a safe space in the event that Caedrel is doing a top side to bot side clear. Of course, he is pathing up towards top side himself, so Neon and Dreams will still feel very comfortable, but I think the idea and execution is actually very good.
For now, though, Caedrel here on the top side first. Gilius taking a much slower, more controlled path. Kryze is going to fish for the stun here. The hook shot, wall dive will take him out to safety, but Caedrel clearing away the vision will make it that much harder for Odoamne to step forward, as Gilius is just doing a very slow full clear, and Caedrel might just catch him in his jungle. Is just moving in for a bit of vision now just to see that blue buff has not been done, letting him know that he has the time to head over and clear his own Raptors.
So while Caedrel will be a little bit behind Gilius when it comes to jungle clearing, he will get some very valuable information on what Gilius is up to. Kryze now knows, okay, Gilius, having not done his blue buff, is either doing it or about to. And that means that I need to push this wave in as quickly as possible, get the wave to bounce back in my favor, and then I'll be safe from any dangerous ganks. Meanwhile, Caedrel, he still has his Raptors that he can do. He still has Krugs, but most importantly, they can look to contest this scuttle. And when we look, we can see that the Jax can move first, the Zoe can as well, but it looks like Gilius is saying, you know what, I'm Sejuani, I probably can't outduel a Sett this early into the game, especially with a Jax having priority in the top lane, so I'm just going to concede this one for now.
I think it makes perfect sense. Good patient play from Gilius, but honestly, excellent pathing and vision from Excel early on. Obviously, haven't gained too much yet, but just mitigating some of that threat around the top side that we talked about in draft is a pretty big deal. Vedius, I do want to shift a little bit of attention towards mid lane, though, because this is a very odd match to me. Generally, I think about Galio as kind of an unmovable rock. He's just going to do what he's going to do, and Zoe, they're kind of going to take turns doing stuff in other lanes, because I don't feel like unless a jungler shows up, either one of these characters are really going to kill each other.
No. I mean, you can kill a Galio, depending on how, well, how aggressively, I'll say, the Galio chooses to play.
Wow. Is the Galio soft in things? I think is kind of the subtle signal I'm getting.
So the thing is, like, he's a melee champion, right? So any melee into range champion, the thing a lot of in my experience, a lot of things that players don't appreciate is how much damage auto attacks do. And so when you're just a melee champion walking up trying to clear the wave, you're just like losing half your health to auto attacks. And you're like, oh, they haven't even used an ability yet. This could be bad. So as you can see, Special is at a CS deficit, but he's been able to get an early back. He's replenished the pots. He's been able to buy some boots as well, which is always very helpful in this kind of matchup. And he's going to be able to hit that 6 with an already with a couple of items under his belt as well. And again, it'll alleviate some of the pressure. So the fact that he's at this deficit, expected, very normal. He hasn't used his teleport yet, but also, yeah, I think that, as you rightly said, it's very unlikely that either will kill each other, especially with the jungle matchups too. Schalke could look for a level 6 gank in the mid lane. I think that with a Zoe Sejuani, you actually have pretty solid ganking tools and utility, but the question is, do you really want to invest that level 6 there? Is it more fruitful for you to invest it in top lane, where you could be trying to get that a Camille ahead, and importantly, trying to put that Jax behind?
And I think it's a very good question, and ultimately, I think we're going to have to see if Schalke can get some pressure here in the mid lane already, because, of course, ganking the global never feels too bad, but trying to trade with Galio when he can just outroam you with that ultimate is always a bit of a difficult proposition. Gilius on the top side, now Sett coming through as well as Blast Cone over the wall. Caedrel coming up from behind. If they want to find the window to gank, it's got to be right now. But Kryze has the ultimate available. Big buff to his effective resistances. And Gilius hesitating a bit here. He's going to go on to Caedrel knowing he has the level advantage. Sejuani burst only going to be there on the E. Doesn't really have any follow-up after that. Does make the 1v1 quite difficult, as you mentioned earlier. So both sides will back up. Odoamne has gotten safely to level 6, though, and you can see the focus from him continues to be on laning itemization, as it is the double Dorans coming out.
Yeah, there was a bit of indecision there. Oh, hang on, but Kryze is just going to TP back in.
Caedrel's here, and he's level 4. Okay, Jax ult going in. That's going to be 1. He's going to look for a few more, but now they're flashing. If they can burst him down before anything else can happen, they get this fight kicked off. That's the Hextech ultimatum. Odoamne backstepping for a brief moment. Gilius tanky, but not tanky enough. Now Abbedagge's on the way in. He's going to be looking to take some summoners, but he can't hit Kryze. Kryze absolutely just dancing around, but Abbedagge just has too many flashes from no! He manages to get out Kryze. One more auto, yes, Abbedagge does take him down, but an absolute bloodbath on the top side of the map. Pulls Odoamne back, he's waiting. Hookshot, wall dive, where's it gonna be? Not nearly enough. XL coming out on top in the trade.
Wow, what a crazy skirmish in the top lane, and this was something we didn't talk about, but both mid laners holding their TP was crucial to the outcome of that fight. Both teams knew they wanted to play around top. Wait, Abbedagge. Wait a minute, Caedrel.
He doesn't have enough time to proc the shield? No. Now it's big. Abbedagge flashing to the side, the stolen flash, and oh, bring it overall, Betty. 2 for 2. Abbedagge, a little bloodthirsty play. I love it.
The question is the action over yet? It looks like it's going to be. Both support showed up for a bit of the action, but not going to result in anything. So let's have a look back. And observers, you can give us some slow-mos here, because a lot of very cool things happen. First things first, when you TP back into lane like this, you're pretty much guaranteed to die. So Schalke are a little hesitant, because there has to be a reason why this is happening. And they realize the reason right now. Caedrel flashes out perfect double stun to then follow it with the Kryze stun, but then the ultimate comes out from Odoamne to knock him away. Now keep your eyes on Kryze in this situation, because he gets stunned up, you think he's dead, but then notice that he's disengaging and moving away from the fight because he recognizes that he's the focus that needs to die. Flashes away from Abbedagge and then gets the ultimate from Special as well. The small execution things here from Kryze were just so clean to just barely get away. Just beautifully done. And at this point, he's done everything in his power to escape. But then Abbedagge is able to pick that one up. And then, of course, because so much has been expended to try actually get that kill onto Kryze, Special and Caedrel can then use what's left to be able to get that kill. And then, of course, we see this overextension here from Caedrel. He thinks that Abbedagge is reset. He's not expecting Abbedagge here, and he ends up losing his life as a result.
And the TP coming as well from Odoamne. They really want to follow up in. Or
no,
Dreams.
That's
Dreams.
It's
Summoner
the spell book. Yeah,
wholesome. I was like, Odoamne, wow, crazy. He's really trying to get that one. No, it's Dreams. All right. Love supports with teleport. Always feels so wholesome. Special starting to, or Abbedagge rather, starting to feel very confident. Special has to be careful. Cleanse coming out from the spell book just to make sure he can get out of that one alive. Now it is full AP from the Galio. No early MR to deal with the Zoe, so he is a bit vulnerable here.
Yeah, you're right. He hasn't even gone for
cooldown boost.
Yeah. Damn, all right, respect.
This man wants more summoners. Summoner spellbook, boots of lucidity. I will flash as much as humanly possible. Thank you.
That is the classic Ender build. You know, where you're just like, Ender, we need you to play a tank. And he's like, all right, I'm sure I can build Infinity Edge on this tank. That's totally fine, right? Of course, like having that additional cooldown reduction is always going to be valuable. Hitting that 40% CDR cap too. Because I imagine he'll go Protobelt probably for this itemization, which then like you're already getting very close to that. And with the Unselved Spellbook and Sorcery, he's probably got a lot of cooldown reduction in his runes as well. So he's going to have 40%. That means his ultimate's going to be up a lot more. The Taunt is going to be up a lot more. But obviously, it does make you a little bit squishier. So it's something he has to be very cautious of because when that Trouble Bubble hits, it's going to be very dangerous for him, that's for sure.
Absolutely is. And while we did see Schalke manage to pick up the Herald for themselves, XL are going to trade it now over for a Drake. And XL, generally, it feels like have been pretty consistent in the past week about objectives, something that they really struggled with in the past videos. Weeks 1 to 5, very abysmal, but week 6 here, we saw XL overall step it up on a lot of objective control.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that their early game agency and influence was much better. Now, speaking of early game agency...
Well, that's going to be the triple snare. Neon going to be in trouble, but very hard to kill this lane as they just go into the mist there and walk it out.
But I think one of the biggest things about XL's greater objective control is the improvement that we've been seeing from the two solo laners. The fact that they haven't just been falling behind in the 1 versus 1s has actually made it easier for XL to be able to contest these neutral objectives. And props to them for being able to step up, and now we'll see if they can get anything off the back of this play. Neon, no flash. XL goes in.
Body's going to hit, though. They got the delayed snare. Gilius still holding, though. I thought for sure he'd throw out the ult, at least go for the attempt, but Caedrel in the area, they don't want to risk it. Of course, Dreams is very low. Neon has almost no mana. Patrik has no mana either. And Galio, with priority in mid, could roam down first. So it looks like Patience was the right call there from the side of Schalke, but still very much a close exchange there. And a rare look from Gilius where he takes his hand off the trigger and backs up. This man has been playing Lee Sin and Nocturne. He's literally only gone in for 2 weeks. So, you know, different change of pace here in this early game.
Honestly, really good awareness. He gets the double summoner spells out from Patrik, and ultimately, that's a W, right? Like, that's all he wants from that situation. Big dub for him. And he's just going to disengage from that situation. And now, Schalke is hit with a slight gold advantage. And I think this ties back to what Frost was saying. Even though this team is 3-10, there's a lot of debate right now if they're even the worst team in our league. And losing to them, especially in the context of the standings, is a very dangerous thing to do. And, you know, all we're ever going to talk about over the next 2 weeks is going to be these stakes. But XL need this win if they want to stay in contention for these playoff spots. And for Schalke, to make the miracle run happen, they need to get a win here today. So a very important win for both these teams.
Dreams sitting with his mouth open. Looks like he really wants to keep it for this time. This time we're going to see Gilius go in for it. Patrik is going to get stunned up. They have decent damage here, actually. Patrik now going to be in trouble. Yuumi not nearly enough hitting. Suck him up, spit him out, right into the railgun. Oh, God, that was nasty.
And patience is rewarded, Drakos. That right there, that is what Gilius was waiting for. No summoner spells, nothing that Tori could do to protect his AD carry. We talked about how the top lane matchup was going to be the focus, but as we've entered the 12-minute mark, the bot lane is where the action is happening.
Oh, I like it from Gilius. The combo, I'm still reeling at that combo. That was sweet. well played by the side. Schalke into the perfect usage of the Herald. And we went from a small gold lead, Vedius, in favor of Schalke, but now as the Herald collapses there, we've got almost 2K, 3,000 in their favor.
Yep. Oh, Schalke stepping up, Drakos. You know, we saw this last split from them as well. Second half rolled around. They started to pick up a lot of wins, a lot of question marks. That's why at the beginning of this split, everyone was like, hey, maybe this team's actually going to be really good. And of course, they had a very difficult start to the split. But now, like, Gilius seems to be finding his form. And we talked about the synergy between Camille and Sejuani. That same synergy applies with Tahm, Kench, and Sejuani too. Look at the stacks that are building up, baby. Like, there's nothing you can do about it.
That's a double stack.
Oh, look, here it comes.
This is
Clean
literally
shot from our observers.
Oh, this is the Big Mac combo. You got the double stack, baby. And then you gobble them up. It's perfect.
Oh, man. I like that. The Big Mac combo. That's great.
Of course, the question on everyone's mind, outside of is Gilius back? Is Hard Fnatic truly back? And you can find that one out in Game 5. But in the meantime, commanding early game from Schalke. I got really nervous, Vedius, when we saw that first top play where Kryze was just dancing on everyone. Yeah. But since that moment, it feels like Schalke have been 100% in the driver's seat.
For sure. It feels like that. What impresses me is how Schalke pivoted because they saw an opportunity. Patrik and Torre went for an aggressive all-in and their summoners were burned. As a result of this, they could make a repeat gank happen. So rather than put your money into the Camille, instead, you'll just invest in bot because it's an easy tower for you to take, and then we can swap Neon up to top. And now, if we can actually swap over to the gold perfectly, you can see that Neon is sitting at the top right now. He's in such a commanding position with a 1.5k gold lead over Patrik.
And the thing is it's not just Neon on the top. It's 4 members of Schalke at the top right now. So you can see just how commanding the gold lead is early on. Now, a lot of the gold differences are relatively small. Patrik, of course, going to cancel some back here's will be a little bit nice. But as we take a look at itemization, you can already see early healing reduction coming down to mitigate a lot of what the Ezreal Yuumi is going to want to do.
Oh.
Additionally,
Drakos.
Luden's Echo.
Sorry, no. I got to talk about it. Did you see the most recent level up episode?
Yes, of course.
Wait a second, we got action at the top.
Tahm Kench running forward. Yuumi all going to be used. They already burned the Yuumi all on the catfish, but it was all just a big bait. One more time, baby. Big Mac. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Gilius takes him down. Torre caught out and knocked out. Patrik down as well. Brutal.
You can't escape the Big Mac combo. Man, Gilius and Dreams working beautifully together, but that whole collapse was just extremely well done from Schalke. A bit of a bait and switch there will result in a loss of the Drake, but the advantages that they gained, well, actually, we'll talk a little bit about those advantages in a second. But here's where the interrupt starts. Schalke's like, okay, we can just back up, but then they're like, wait a second. Maybe we can actually do a clever thing here, because Patrik and Torre recognize we've just reset. We can actually push this wave out, and we can threaten that tower. And Schalke's like, we're going to catch them off guard here. We're going to punish them. And this is where we see the TP coming from behind. Sejuani's pathed up top. Patrik and Torre are split. Patrik comes very close to getting that solo kill onto Neon, and Odoamne then comes in for the save. And this is where we see stacks upon stacks come through. Dreams donating that kill over to Gilius. But yeah, beautifully well done. Of course, when we look at the overall gains for Schalke, of course, they got a monumental gold advantage there. But typically, what Schalke would have done here is they would have reset path bot. They then would have contested the next Drake, and then they maybe would have lost their top tower as a result. Because they didn't do that, because they went for this play, they don't gain any additional objectives. They just further accelerate their gold lead, but they did lose the second Drake. And this is something that they have to keep in mind, because even though they do have a commanding gold advantage right now, that 4 Drake win condition is a very easy way for XL to flip this game back on its head.
And XL are a team that have not been afraid to drag it out into the late game to find these big team fight wins. And we know and expect that the later it goes, the scarier Jax is going to get. Even if Odoamne feels okay in the side lane, it's going to be a nightmare for everyone else. That said, we do have first items now coming in. Camille a little bit behind. Jax will get the Trinity Force. And in the meantime, as predicted, Vedius, full CDR coming in for special. This man just wants to cast his ult as much as possible.
Yeah, it looks like it. And we've only seen one use of it so far. So hopefully XL will be able to be a little bit more proactive, because I think that the laning phase is dissolved much quicker than XL probably would have wanted. But the reason why I bring up that level up episode, Drakos, is because we talked a lot about atomization and boots specifically.
Oh, that one. I have seen that one.
This one is the perfect game for Ninja Tabbies if you're Schalke. Like, all the damage is from auto attackers. Like, sure, Galio has damage, but like, you're not really that concerned about his one taunt. The actual overall crowd control on XL is actually pretty limited. There aren't any big CC abilities that you have to be worried about. Instead, mitigating that auto attack damage is way more valuable. So I love this itemization that we're seeing from Gilius.
Well, and also the only CC you can actually mitigate is Jax's stun.
Yeah.
And as well as the taunt from Galio.
Technically the stun from Caedrel too, technically.
Well,
but then
tenacity doesn't affect displacement effects. So.
But you can get stunned, remember?
That's true, that's true.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we are going to see the siege in the mid lane here, so while they did give up the Drake, they are going to be able to grab this mid lane tier 2 tower, which, as you can see, makes Abbedagge's life just so beautiful. Little lip smack, because he just gets to throw bubbles over the wall and sit back in safety as he just rains hell on the XL lineup.
Schalke's looking clean right now.
This is Proska's been talking them up for a long time. To be fair, she's also talked up Excel for a long time, but I wasn't bought in. Even last week I was a little skeptical, but I'm seeing it now because Gilius doesn't need to be on a snowball champion. He's been everywhere this game. And shout out again to Gilius. This is a man that, you didn't maybe have the highest expectations for coming in. It's been an up and down career for Gilius overall, but he seems to be exactly what Schalke needed.
Like, I think that when he came into the roster, obviously it wasn't under ideal circumstances, but I think that over time he's been able to grow into someone that's actually had a lot of impact. And I think that his Lee Sin and his Kha'Zix were two champions that gave him a lot of agency and allowed him to be proactive. But now we see him on the Sejuani. It feels like the Schalkers all working together as a team, like they're all just one fluid machine that's just operating as intended. And they're being able to, right now they're just dumpstering XL. That is a significant gold lead. You imagine that right now the priority is setting up for that Inferno Drake, which is going to be spawning in a minute's time. And if we just toggle over to the vision, let's have a look at what XL can see right now, because I imagine it's not going to be very much down in Drakos.
This is budget vision control right now. They luckily now see 3 members of Schalke, so they don't have to be scared for their lives on the top side. That is going to let Special move up and clear out another wave, but you can already see Odoamne backing up. He won't even walk into his own side of the map to clear waves right now because he knows that everyone is waiting in the darkness, and his suspicions are confirmed as he now realizes that that ward will not get to live either.
Wow, look at that. It's so scary being an XL player right now. We've all been there. We've all played those solo queue games where it feels like you can't really approach anything, and Schalke, they're looking to secure this next tier 2 tower.
Ezreal will be used to try to clear the wave. Of course, Kryze can't just walk forward with the counter-strike there, mitigate really all of the damage as he clears that one out, and Caedrel and Special are using this time to clear the mid-wave as well. So XL doing a good job of holding on as much as they can, but Neon will slowly but surely be able to poke away at this tower. The extra range from Senna really starting to stack up as the game goes longer.
For sure. And this should be another objective going in favor of Schalke. 5 turrets to 0 right now. And then they can easily transition back towards the Inferno Drake. So,
Vedius. It's too clean.
It's too clean.
It's too clean. Did we change the nameplates? Dylan Falco, you mastermind? Was it a long con? This is great League of Legends. You asked for this. You asked for better, cleaner League of Legends this week.
For sure, yeah.
This is not where I thought we would get it, but Schalke, they're wampa stomping. They're doing great right now.
And the problem that XL have right now is that they haven't really hit those item spikes ready to be able to contest anything yet. And Schalke have used their item advantage beautifully. The fact that their bot lane was able to get such a commanding lead over the Ezreal Yuumi was massive, because it's around the 2 items ideally where both these teams want to spike. You know, you were kind of expecting, okay, Trini forces in the top lane, maybe the Camille gets a second item, maybe the Jax does as well. Or look, you can see the Zhonya's coming out for Special. Okay, this is kind of the time where you would expect both teams to be a little bit more active on the map, you know, and with the control that XL have had over the Drakes, it was probably going to be a big point of contention. But the moment this bot lane play happened, where Schalke was able to find those double repeat ganks and then break that tower and then snowball the rest of it, it's been nothing but Schalke's control over this game.
And when we look at it too, it's just very difficult when you fall behind as an Ezreal, especially when you're going Iceborne Gauntlet to the Senna. Both of you are building cheap items, the Senna providing so much more utility. So for Patrik and Torre, after that gank, I just feel like they haven't been able to get back into the game. And without Ezreal doing damage, you're reliant on the Jax, who's still struggling to complete some of these items, and the Galio, who, while he is building a lot of AP, is certainly not the most reliable source of damage against a lineup with this much mobility.
For sure. Whew. All right, well, let's see how Schalke now look to close this game out if they can. Of course, we did talk about the potential Drake win condition for XL. They're still sitting at 2 Drakes. Next one spawns in about 3.5 minutes, so that's a long way off. They're still looking to scale up. They're looking to try and, you know, get that upgraded Mana Mune on the side of Patrik, so he has the more mana, has a little bit more power. Whereas Schalke, they can start threatening this Baron. When I look at this comp, am a little worried about the speed of Schalke's Baron because you have the Senna. It's not the fastest Baron taking team in the world. And less Odoamne is there, it's a little bit faster then, but then of course you're conceding that side lane pressure that Odoamne is built for. So we'll see how they play around this Baron. Maybe instead they actually just look for a pick. They have a lot of strong pick tools with the W from Neon, the bubble from Abbedagge, the ultimate from Gilius. So perhaps they just want to bait XL in and say, okay, come face check this part of the map, come see if we're starting this Baron off, because if you don't, we're either going to secure it, but if you do, we're going to kill you.
And this has been so clean from Schalke so far, right? But this is always the ultimate test of kind of bottom tier teams versus middle of the pack or top of the table teams, is how cleanly you can set up a big objective like the Baron. And for now, it looks like Schalke are very clean. Important to note, Camille plus the Sejuani will proc the passive repeatedly on the Sejuani. They remove the cooldown on the larger objectives here, so you can just keep shattering Baron over and over again. Still relatively slow, as you mentioned, Vedius, but faster than it has been in previous
It's also fast
splits.
enough, do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, all you need to do, look, the double smites too. Was that even triple smite?
That was clean. I mean, we're getting it. Like, every Schalke fan in the world is like, who is playing right now? I love it. Give it to me every game. Put it straight into my veins, Schalke. I want more of this good League of Legends.
Yeah. Remember, guys, there's only 5 games left. In order to qualify for playoffs right now, Schalke is 3 wins behind XL. You know, like, it's possible, is all I'm gonna say. The miracle run is real, it could happen, and it can start with a win today for Schalke. Of course, this makes XL's road a lot harder, because their competition upcoming, I imagine, is no easy competition straight ahead of them. I'm pretty sure they still have to play Fnatic and G2 and some of the big heavy hitters, which of course they did take down G2, but depending on what these teams look like in later forms, getting these wins against the teams that are supposed to be beneath you in the standings is extremely important.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams just have very brutal Week 8 schedules. Not only is it a super week, not only are you playing 3 teams back-to-back, but for a lot of these teams towards the bottom of the table, they're playing the G2s, the Origins, the you know, the Fnatics, the Mad Lions.
Mad's Rogue too.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's the thing, is that the league is so close that there are very few teams right now that you're not scared about playing, which is, you know, not normally where we are. In Week 7, Week 8, Week 9, we're usually locked for playoffs for half of our region, and we're playing for like 1 or 2 spots. But the fact that this season is so close just means every single game, even a game against a 3-10 Schalke, is incredibly crucial, as we see Kryze engaged on once again. That range getting stronger and stronger for Neon. Checked on the stacks about 5 minutes ago. It was 47, so Neon, I imagine, getting close to 60, that additional 25 range.
Kryze, his flash timing was very clutch there. Odoamne flashed in as well to lock him in the ultimate, and if he had been caught, he would have been dead. But now Schalke continuing to play on all 3 lanes right now. Abbedagge, of course, still has the teleport. There's very little that anyone can do to stop Abbedagge.
And confirming 60 stacks now as well. And Vedius, we talked about the 4-1 for Schalke's composition a little bit with the Camille and splitting, but it appears that they're so far ahead that they can.
I mean, I forgot that God Gilius, too, must be given a lane for his own rights. Like, one must not challenge him, for he is the mighty jungler and pusher of lanes.
One god per lane, please. There is no room for the peasants of this world, as Kryze was feeling really good about that trade just a second ago, but he's not looking so good anymore. Oh no, Galio, hand-delivered into this lineup. Patrik coming over the wall, he's trying to turn it back around. Caedrel now running in. Patrik's found one onto Gilius. A good fight. Potentially next. Caedrel pulling him back. XL can't turn this. This is what we talked about, the late game potential for XL, but no, he's sleepy and Abbedagge's on the hunt. He's got extra summoner spells that he can flash in fearlessly. He stole another one for himself. XL going to back off. Now the Baron is still here for Schalke. They should be able to break a tower, but XL definitely showing that they are not to be trifled with.
All right, this has to be some kind of record for number of flashes Zoe has used in a game. Like, Abbedagge has so much mobility in this game, it is absolutely ridiculous. But I thought Patrik's flash in initially was very scary, but he was able to make it work and almost turn that fight around for XL. Unfortunately, it was not enough. Schalke still pushing into the base, threatening these inhibitors, but with the respawn timers cooling down, Kryze is now back alive. Looks like Schalke is going to be forced to disengage. In fact, the XL are on the hunt.
Delayed CC though. Kryze going to get zoned away. Suppressor now, the Zoe getting pulled back, and that's going to be big. Caedrel finding his way into the back line, but the extra flash for Abbedagge, he's just got too many. Patrik almost immediately one-shot, and now Odoamne's on the hunt. He wants to finish this one off. Tori going in, trying to use the shield. Of course, he's going to get stunned up. Kryze does a lot of damage, but Abbedagge does even more. Jumping forward, fishing for the trouble bubble. Minions there to block, and now Odoamne is there to finish the deal. Counter-strike just in time to ferry him out to safety, and now it's Patrik in trouble. Neon's going to clean us that one off. A nice heal coming in from the piercing shadow to finish it, and Tori goes down as well. Gilius coming in with a chilling smite. Why not just to finish it? And Schalke poised to take the game.
Schalke looking clean as they dismantle XL. XL, they look like they had a bit of reprieve, but the ultimate comes through from Gilius.
That's gonna be it. There's no coming back. He's sleepy in the Golden State. Special gonna run for the hills, but that's gonna do it. Schalke, my God, what a dominating performances. Small signs of life for the XL lineup, no doubt, but they have to be kicking themselves. Schalke will move up to 4-10, and for now, the playoff dream is still alive. Caedrel, though, may certainly not be on the back of this one as Schalke close it out.
Commanding and clean victory from Schalke. 27.5 minutes, Drakos. I thought this game was going to be a lot more about the top side, but props to Schalke finding that window in the bot lane to find those successful ganks, start that snowball going, moving their bot lane around the map, and then we got to see the creation of something new. The Big Mac combo, Drakos. It's not like new, we've seen it before, but the execution of it from this Schalke jungle bot lane. Oh, look, Gilius and Dreams are on your key player of the game.
I love you, Abbedagge, but get out of here. You stole too many flashes from me. No thieves in this boat. Gilius or Dreams, you can pick. It does not matter, and things do not get easier for XL. They lost to Schalke. They got Misfits tomorrow. Cross your fingers for them. But for Schalke, just be proud, because they just secured their 3rd win in a row. And after the break, Odoamne is going to give some insight on their miracle run.
I remember that so well. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, charged up. Hello, everybody. Let the game begin.
everyone, I'm joined here by Odoamne after Schalke 04 racks up another win, and Odo, a very convincing one versus Excel, and it's just been incredible to see how much better Schalke has been doing the last couple of weeks compared to the beginning of the split. What do you think brought on this huge change?
I just think that at the beginning we're kind of not really transposing our performances from scrims on stage. I think we were making a lot of mistakes, and we couldn't really find our mojo, I guess, to keep it going with the stuff that we were doing in scrims. And I think now we just, like, as time went on, our games just got a bit cleaner in scrims as well, and now it's kind of like we got a system going for when we play on stage, and it's not like as difficult as it was in the beginning.
I mean, it looked methodical just now versus Excel. I talked to your jungler, Gilius, a little bit earlier, and he was praising your late-game shot-calling capabilities. What can you tell me about kind of your cooperation with the god Gilius, and how that has influenced the team?
I mean, this game I kind of just told Gilius that let's just you know, push and get some a bit, like, clear their pings, and then we can just do Nashes too for a while, because they're freezing bot and freezing mid at the same time. So it kind of like made sense, because once I get Triforce on Camille, I kind of shred the Nasher. And I don't know, I think when Gilius is confident and he has, like, champions that he's comfortable on, he kind of rises up to, like, the shot caller role a lot more than he's used to, I think, because this game he had a lot of decisive calls. And I don't know, overall I think that now we're just working better together, like the side lanes and the guys on the mid lane, to, like, what we can do with our moves. And it's kind of like no one's, like, really hung out to dry except myself when Jax froze for 5 minutes and no one helped me. So other than that, everything is great.
Okay, well, the key player of the game, rather, the audience awarded it to Gilius, so there you go. Is he stealing your thunder?
No, I mean, he stole it, I think, last week maybe, but this week I think so far his Sejuani has been really clean. I think he was constantly ahead of Sett, like outpacing him, and I think he pressured the right lanes at the right moment, because even though the plan was to play for, like, top side a bit, considering they have, like, Galio, Jax, and Sett top lane can get, like, super explosive, I think he found really good windows to snowball the bot lane and kind of take over from there.
Yeah, Daddy did. Final question, Odo. We're talking about the miracle run, the possibility for Schalke 04, and it is going to be incredibly hard, obviously. But you've been in situations like this before. You're such an experienced player. You've been on the brink of defeat, then finding your way back. So what, to you, is the single most important thing that you guys as a team are going to have to focus on in the next couple of weeks?
I think just take it game by game, because I think that there's still 4 games left in the split, and even like that, mathematically, if we win all 4 games, it's still not really like a super high chance that we make playoffs. So I think just be ready for disappointment, and I mean, it's true, because we messed up so much this split that it's kind of like unrealistic for us to just be like, okay guys, let's just win everything and we make it to playoffs, because even then it's not really like a high chance that if the dice doesn't, like, roll in our favor, we won't really, like, make it. But I think if we just focus on our performance first, to, like, have good games and clean games against the teams, and we get wins from that, then if the gods rule it in our favor, then we will make playoffs and win worlds. But if not, then yeah, that sucks.
Well, I love it. Take it game by game, and make sure that you don't regret anything at the end. I think that's a solid way to look at it. Thank you so much, Odo. Congratulations on yet another victory for Schalke.
Thanks for having me.
No
It was
problem.
a pleasure.
Awesome. Just compliments front and back. I love it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with Misfits versus SK.
From a rogue at the back of the pitch should make this pretty easy for them to secure. Temper Fate comes out, that hits the button. You can burst it right now, Sjokz has to do it. Oh! Temper Fate, the combo!